Hello everyone, welcome to the official YouTube channel of Pratham Test Prep. My name is Girish Bhatt and today in this session we are going to discuss some important topics of QA and LRDI for your coming papers of CAT and other management entrances like SNAP uh, and MAT and other management entrances, right? So these are some topics जिनसे you can expect some questions in your coming papers, right? So these are very important topics, and in this session we are going to discuss some tips and tricks. With the help of those tricks, you can solve questions related to these topics within seconds, right? So for today's session, we are going to discuss some tricks related to calendar, right? So this is the very first session of topic calendar, right? So in this video, we'll do one small topic, one part of calendar, one subtopic of calendar, that is leap year, right? So very first concept of calendar is leap year. In this video, we are going to discuss what leap year means and will solve questions related to leap year. So I'll tell you what is exact meaning of leap year, right? Many of you are still confused with the concept of leap year and how will identify whether given year is a leap year or not, right? Let's say you have given any year, let's say here 1972 is given, right? Now my question is, check whether this given year is a leap year or not. Okay? Then the very first approach is you will divide this year and this is completely divisible by 4. तो आप लोग आंसर करेंगे yes sir, this is a leap year, right? Then my second question is, now here we have 1400. Now check whether this is a leap year or not. Now again, some of you will divide this by 4 and this is again divisible by 4, but this is not the leap year, right? So now the question is, how will identify whether that given year is a leap year or not, right? So for this, the correct definition of leap year says you just first need to check whether that given year is an ordinary year or a century year. Or we can say that given year is a century year or non-century year, right? Like 1400 is a century year. What is meaning of century year? Century year means those years which are multiple of 100. Like 100 is a century year, 200 is a century year, right? 300 is a century year, right? All those years which are multiple of 100 are century years, right? So in case of century years, you need to divide the year by 400, right? If that is divisible by 400, then only that year is a leap year. Otherwise, that year is ordinary year, right? And in case of non-century years, now the question is, what is meaning of non-century year? Non-century years are those years which are not the multiple of 100, like 1972, that is not a multiple of 100. So that means this is a non-century year. So in case of non-century year, year must be divisible by 4, right? If that is divisible by 4, then only that year is a leap year. Otherwise, that year is ordinary. Correct? So what is the exact definition now? So the correct definition for leap year is, first you need to check whether that given year is a century year or non-century year. If that is a century year, that should be divisible by 400. If that is a non-century year, in that case, that year should be divisible by 4, right? Then only that year is a leap year, otherwise that year is ordinary year. I hope now this makes sense for everyone. How will identify year which is leap or which is not leap year or ordinary year, right? So now the question is, sir, इस topic से कैसे questions हमारे exam में आ सकते हैं, right? So make sure आपके exam में बहुत basic questions पूछे जाते हैं, right? So I'll start with one basic question related to leap year, right? So here we have one question that is related to leap year concept. Question is, find the odd one out. Right. So here we have given 4 options, right? Out of these 4 options, one option is odd. What is meaning of this odd one out? Now the question is, sir, what is the meaning of odd one out? Right. So out of these 4 options, 3 options are similar some manner, similar in some manner, right? One is not following that particular condition, so that one option is odd. You just need to figure out of these four options, which one is the odd option, correct? So first for 1900, this is a century year, right? Now for any century to be leap, that must be divisible by 400, right? So now check whether 1900 is divisible by 400. Is it so? No, 1900 is not divisible by 400. So this is ordinary year, right? This is ordinary year. Now, same for 1952. This is a leap or century year or non-century year. This is a non-century year. And non-century year, if divisible by 4, is leap year. Is it divisible by 4? Yes. 1952 is divisible by 4, so this is a leap year, right? Now check for third option, 1800. This is a century year. For century year to be leap, it must be divisible by 400. Is it divisible by 400? No, not divisible by 400. That means this year is again ordinary year, right? Now check for option number D, 1842. This is non-century year. For any non-century year to be leap, it must be divisible by 4. Is it divisible by 4? And now for 4, what is the divisibility rule of 4? Right. So the divisibility rule of 4 says last two digit must be divisible by 4. Right. Last two digits are 42. Is it 42 divisible by 4? No, not divisible. So this is again ordinary year. Right. So now you can easily identify out of the given 4 options which one is odd. 3 years are ordinary years. So they are following some common pattern, right? And this 1 year is leap year. So this one is odd. So correct option is option B, right? So this question is based on the concept of leap year, right? So in the same concept, they can ask one more question, that is they can ask you for next leap year, right? So generally जब भी मैं क्लासेस में होता हूँ, मैंने स्टूडेंट से ये क्वेश्चन पूछा है, फाइंड द नेक्स्ट लीप ईयर, व्हाट इज द डेफिनेशन ऑफ लीप ईयर. सबका कहना ये होता है कि लीप ईयर कम्स आफ्टर एवरी 4 ईयर, है ना? यही सबको लगता है, मोस्ट ऑफ यू जिनको कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं पता, राइट, कि अभी लीप ईयर आया है तो 4 ईयर्स के बाद फिर से लीप ईयर आएगा, बट दिस इज नॉट करेक्ट, राइट? सो similar pattern, in the same pattern, there is one question that is based on find the next leap year after 1396. राइट, तो मेक श्योर कभी कभी लीप ईयर 8 ईयर्स के बाद भी आता है. वो क्यों होता है, उसका रीजन क्या है? बिकॉज ऑफ दिस डेफिनेशन ऑफ लीप ईयर, राइट? ओनली दोज सेंचुरी ईयर्स विच आर मल्टीपल ऑफ 400 आर leap years. Other century years are ordinary years, right? So here the year is 1396, ठीक है? एंड सबको पता है लीप ईयर 4 ईयर्स के बाद आता है, तो आप इसमें +4 करोगे तो यू विल फाइंड 1400. बट नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज, क्या 1400 लीप ईयर है? इज इट सो? 1400 के लिए is this is a century year, right? And century year to be leap, it must be divisible by 400 or must be multiple of 400. Is it a multiple of 400? No, this is not. So that means this year is ordinary year. This is not leap year, right? So next leap year after 1396 will be next year +4, that is 1404. This is the next leap year after 1396, means after 8 years. Next leap year is after 8 years. So correct answer is 1404. I hope this makes sense for all. Why 1400 is not a leap year? Why the leap year is after 8 years, not after 4 years here in this particular case? Because of the definition of leap year, right? So there is one more question. They can even ask you for number of leap years in any particular gap of years, right? Like here the question is, how many leap years are there between 700 to 1700? बहुत बड़ा gap है, right? 700 से 1700 तक how many leap years are there? है ना? Students को लगता है कितना बड़ा question है, this is very time taking. No, you can solve this question within 5 seconds if you know the correct method of solving the question, right? सो जनरली अगर लीप ईयर की बात करें, यू नो लीप ईयर कम्स आफ्टर एवरी 4 years, है ना? अभी तक सबको यही पता था, बट अभी जो मैंने करेक्ट डेफिनेशन आपको बताई, तो अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट डेफिनेशन, if that given year is a non-century year, that must be divisible by 4, and if that is a century year, that must be divisible by 400, right? So how will solve the question, right? From 700 to 1700, how many leap years are there? So how many years are there from 700 to 1700? 10 century years are there. How many? 10, है ना? 1000 years approx from 700 to 1700, right? 10 century year, 1 century year means 100 years, and यहाँ पर 1000 years होंगे, तो we can easily say 10 century years are there, right? Okay, then what is the approach? Okay, there is one common approach. अभी हम एक concept develop करते हैं, right? So let's talk about first 100 years. First 100 years. फर्स्ट 100 years की बात करते हैं, राइट? सो नाउ माय क्वेश्चन इज कि फर्स्ट 100 years में कितने लीप ईयर्स होंगे, राइट? हाउ मेनी लीप ईयर्स आर देयर इन फर्स्ट 100 years? आपको पता है कि भाई लीप ईयर कम्स आफ्टर एवरी 4 years, यही सबको पता है ना? तो क्या करते हैं, डिवाइड 100 by 4. दिस इज योर अप्रोच, है ना? आप 25 फाइंड कर लोगे, एंड बहुत से स्टूडेंट ये आंसर भी करते हैं कि फर्स्ट 100 years देयर आर 25 लीप ईयर्स. दैट इज नॉट करेक्ट. व्हाई दिस इज नॉट करेक्ट? बिकॉज अगर फर्स्ट 100 years की बात करें, तो क्या फर्स्ट 100 years में कोई सेंचुरी ईयर भी है? इज इट सो? यस, देयर इज वन सेंचुरी ईयर, दैट इज 100, है ना? For this 100 to be leap, this must be divisible by 400, but this is not divisible by 400, so this 100th year is ordinary year, है ना? उससे पहले जो 24 आपने काउंट करे, they are correct, but this 100 that is divisible by 4 but not divisible by 400. For any century year to be leap, that must be divisible by 400. So this 1 year is ordinary. So 25 minus 1, 24 is the correct answer. In every 100 year, okay, so पहले बात करते हैं first 100 years की. In first 100 years, there are 24 leap years. How many? 24 leap years. Now this is the concept, right? For solving all the questions related to this, how many leap years are there in X gap of X years, right? So 24 leap years are there. So now the concept is, we can say in every 100 years there are 24 non-century leap years. 24 non-century leap years. कितने leap years होते हैं? 24. कैसे leap years होते हैं? Non-century. अभी हम century leap years को exclude कर रहे हैं. Now in this method we are only counting non-century leap years, ठीक है? उसके बाद we'll count century leap years. वो हम fingers पे count कर सकते हैं, because century के लिए we know कि जो 400 का multiple होगा वो ही leap year होगा, otherwise leap year नहीं होगा अगर 400 का multiple नहीं होगा, right? Like 400 is a century year, next multiple of 400 is 800, then 1200, then 1600, then 2000, 2400 and so on, right? So in every 100 years there are 24 non-century. Make sure these are non-century leap years, right? In 100 years there are 24. तो यहाँ पर 1 century, 100 years means in 1 century there are 24 non-century years. यहाँ पर तो आपके पास 10 centuries हैं, तो 10 centuries में how many non-century leap years are there? 24 into 10, that is 240, right? तो आपको ये सब कहानी लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है, राइट? यू डायरेक्टली नो नाउ कि भाई इन एवरी 100 years देयर आर 24 नॉन सेंचुरी ईयर्स. तो यहाँ पर 10 सेंचुरीज है, तो 10 में कितने हो जाएंगे? 24 into 10, दैट इज 240. सो ये कैसे है? दीज आर नॉन सेंचुरी लीप ईयर्स, right? These are non-century leap years. Now we'll talk about century leap years. तो आप देखो इस लिमिट में you can easily count the century leap years. 700 से 1700 तक कितने मल्टीपल्स हैं 400 के? 800, then 1200, then 1600 and 2000 उसके ऊपर चला गया because हमारे limit is only till 1700, right? So it's 800, 1200 and 1600. 3 century leap years are there. So total is 240 non-century plus 3 century. So answer is 243. Means exam में आपको इतना ही लिखना था. This is the part जो exam में करना है. 240 plus 3 is 243. And this is your concept जो अब आपको आगे पता रहेगा, right? While you are solving the question related to this number of century years. Correct? So in the similar way, let's try to solve one more question, right? Let's see, here we have given how many leap years are there from 1100 to 1700. In this range, how many leap years are there? So in 1 century, there are 24 leap years, right? यहाँ पर कितनी centuries हैं? These are 6 centuries, right? 600 years का gap है, तो 6 centuries. So it's 24 into 6. कितना हो जाएगा? 6 4 जा 24, 6 2 जा 12 plus 2, 14, 144. These are non-century leap years. Now 1100 से 1700 तक कौन से ऐसे centuries हैं जो 400 के multiple है? That is 1200 and 1600. Only 2. So it's plus 2. So answer is 146. So done. देखो कितना easy है, right? It will hardly take 5 seconds or 10 seconds. With practice, you can solve within 5 seconds, right? So this is the very first part of this particular series of questions related to LRDI and QA, right? So we'll continue this series, right? If you like the video, you need more videos on this particular topic and other topics too. So don't forget to like and share this video with your friends, right? So every Tuesday and Friday, we'll do live based on your topics for CAT and other management entrances, right? So this is the very first session of CAT and we'll do second part next week, right? So stay tuned. Thank you everyone. Bye-bye. Take care all. Thank you all.